Welcome everyone to the fourth episode of The Second Opinion. My name is Arvin and I'll be your moderator for today. Now, to introduce our speakers, we have...
My name is Mohammed. I'm a Stage 3 medical student.
My name is Afifa. I'm a Stage 3 medical student also.
My name is Hariharan. I'm from Stage 2 BMS.
I'm Suba, a Stage 1 medical student.
And I'm Ray, a Stage 1 medical student as well.
Right. So we have quite a number of speakers today and a very interesting topic. Today's topic is religion. We did have quite a few apprehensive comments when we first wanted to do this topic, but we'll see how it goes. So, just to clarify for the viewers, today's topic will not be a discussion on comparative religion. Rather, it will be a discussion about the relevance of religion in today's society. To simplify, is it theism or atheism? And we'll see how it goes. So, to each of you, individually, who or what is God?
So basically the essence of God for example, in what I believe personally, because of course if we're going to get into theism, then we have to obviously speak on what we adhere to or what we believe personally. So for example, I'm a Muslim, so in Islam, God, the essence of God is simplified into four things. One, He is the only one, so say He is God the only one, and that He is eternal and absolute. He's not begotten and He does not beget. So meaning, in other words, He was not born, He didn't come to existence, He has no beginning, nor is He dependent. He needs children or offsprings and whatnot. And then finally, there is nothing like Him. So this is basically a summary of the definition of God in Islam.
I think Muhammad said it quite well because I'm Muslim too, so I don't think I can top that up at all. So yeah, spot on.
But she can actually say the same thing.
Yeah.
Harry?
I'm a Hindu. However, I would say I identify as an agnostic Hindu. So for me, I believe that I don't see God as a person monitoring whatever we do or things around us. The way I perceive God is that it's sort of like an energy in every one of us and everything around us. So, to put it in simpler terms, I would say that we are God and everything around us is God. Goodness makes God.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Hari said, because that's actually what I believe in as well. I'm also an agnostic Hindu. So I think Hari just explained everything I thought of, so yeah.
So I'm going to be the one to explain for my own self. Okay, I'm currently an atheist, but obviously I didn't start off as that. When I was young, I was brought up as a Hindu. I'm Indian. So I think one of the few reasons why I did become an atheist was because I didn't really delve deep into religion when I was a child. Like, I knew the basics about it, but that was all. But I think that as a Hindu, what we believed in was that there were deities, we prayed to them, and the concepts were like just do good, right? And karma. But now I've become an atheist personally, like personal reasons. I've reflected, questioned a few things. I would say that I used to be agnostic, like Shubha and Hari. There was a time where I was, but now I think as I've matured, I decided to just firmly believe, in atheism as well. So there's actually not much for me to talk about in terms of what God is.
Okay. Those are all very interesting viewpoints. Just before we move on into the more serious discussions, so for Muhammad and Afifa, you both mentioned how God is defined in Islam. But in terms of personally, in your personal experience, who is God to you? Do you understand my question?
Not really, sorry. It's slightly a bit vague.
How should I put it? It's more like...
Because the thing is, the concept of God is something which supersedes the human
very
intellect.
correct.
Because we humans by nature are imperfect and we are flawed in the sense that this is from our nature, not in the sense of a demeaning, demoralizing manner. So we have limits, basically, limitations. So something which innately, in essence, has limitations, it will not be able to withstand something beyond its capacity. And basically, the essence or the nature of God cannot be understood in His real essence, in His actual attributes. Does that make sense? So we understand, we are informed of Him, and of course then you have to go into the details of theology and how, etc. So how the message is conveyed, etc. But through the texts and beliefs and whatnot. But in terms of just simplistically putting it, the essence of God is something that is beyond and transcends our human intellect, our human capacity of understanding the actual nature. We are able to understand who God is, and in Islam, who God is, how to worship Him, yes, and what He loves and what He displeases Him, etc. But we don't know His being in itself, and that's why in Islam, God is someone or a being, a deity that is neither male or female. So He's genderless. You can't equate Him to anything. Anything that comes to your mind is not God. Anything which can come to the conjecture of a human being or any creation for that being is not God. So that's the essence of God.
So essentially, God is beyond our understanding.
Comprehensive.
Ununderstandable.
In his nature, beyond your understanding. But you only can understand in what He has relayed to you through His messengers.
Okay.
So following up on that, I think what Arvin meant was obviously that is how you see God, right? That's how you believe in it. But I think he was asking, in your own way, how do you perceive God as? Or do you just follow like the
It's
actual...
not really how you perceive God as. It's the more of a fact, like, what kind of role does God portray in your life? Like, what kind of
sure.
role is He taking within your life? And like, for me personally, it gives me a meaning to life, like, rather than, always striving towards short-term goals, like, oh, I got to finish this assignment off, I got to get this degree, like little life goals, get a job and stuff like that. Other than that, it gives you a much more broader and a holistic meaning to life as to why you're alive, why you're doing this and why you're doing that. It kind of gives you morals and beliefs to follow.
So like purpose, right?
Yeah,
That's what
it's
you're
a
trying to say.
purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. But I can't,
Okay.
I can't really say like who is God to me. I can tell you what kind of role He has
on your
me.
life.
Yeah, more like that.
So I'm really sorry, by the way. And yes, Afifah put that very well. So essentially, my question is, what role does religion play in your life?
Right.
Which I think is a much better phrase question. So apologies.
Yeah.
So I think to Hari, I think.
I think let's let Subha speak first before I do. Because earlier I
I mean, if you guys don't have any
Yeah,
others.
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
okay.
go ahead.
Honestly, for me, religion plays a role in the sense that I feel it makes me a better person because, like Afifah said, it gives meaning to life. I mean, yeah, we do a lot of things in life, and most of our goals are basically materialistic goals. I have to get a job, I have to finish up my degree. But with the sense that, there is God, you start to enjoy the little things in life. You appreciate the little moments you have. You might have a really bad day, but in that entire bad day, in your chaos, you find peace in those little moments. And that is the moment that I see God through. Like, I might have had a really bad day, but I would have had a friend who came up to me to check in on me and be like, are you doing okay? Are you fine?
Yeah, that was me.
And it was in those things, in those little actions, that is where I see God through. So that is the kind of way I think God or religion plays a role in my life.
I would say that religion to me, it doesn't give me a purpose per se, but religion sort of is there to make me disciplined. So I follow Hinduism and all of that, and I believe that it's there, it's something I follow to just remind me that of values, like how it's important to do good to others, to make people around you feel good. I wouldn't say that it gives me my purpose in life. Instead, it's just there that helps me to differentiate between good and bad, if you will. It's just there, so I'm disciplined.
Adding on that as well, I think another thing that God or that religion plays a role for me as well is it reminds me of being humble. It reminds you to be humble because there's always something or someone out there. Just like life really teaches you a lot of things, you see different people and stuff. And it really reminds me especially to be humble and to appreciate what I already have. Because there are times where we just we see different people and it reminds you that, oh, I have people around me who care for me and stuff. So those things, it reminds you to be humble, reminds you to stay low, not to just be full of yourself. Because there is something, whatever it is, like Hari said, an energy, for example, out there that is far superior beyond your understanding. So it keeps you, grounded.
In check.
Yeah, in check.
So, Rishan, I understand that you're sort of the atheist here.
No, I mean, I can
What are your
agree with
thoughts?
all of you on how God affected you in life, or how you live your life based on your religion and God. Because, I too believed once, right? But the thing with me was I like to question everything. So, once you start with one question, you just delve into this whole network of everything you could think of. So, when I was young, I used to question, like, whenever I did something that might be slightly wrong, but it benefits me, like maybe I just want to like take an extra chocolate or not go to school today and fake a fever or something. I always had that irrational question, like, damn, what would God think of this? And it got to a point where I was thinking to myself, am I not allowed to decide anything? Then it comes to the free will aspect, right? Like, do you have any free will? So to me, I'll keep it really short. It was like, I just started asking myself, like, am I allowed? Like, can I just do it, and not think about it? And then, when you do it once and then you do it again, and then you realize, like, wait a minute, life is so much easier, at least to me now, because I think I found myself restricting a lot of things that I do based on my perspective on what religion might be. Like, I wouldn't want to go to hell. I wouldn't want to be in the bad books. Another thing, I think I noticed it quite recently, was that in every religion, they always teach you good moral values, right? Don't steal, be good to others. Don't do it for like your own greater good. You can do it because you want people to be happy, right? Which is why I'm always the guy who makes the jokes, because I like to see people happy.
But everyone likes jokes. I'm sure there's
True,
no one that doesn't like
but it comes to the point, like, I thought about it in a way that not all religion is the same, but they teach you similar things.
Same
Actually,
concept.
Same
At
concepts.
the core, it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
So I was like, maybe my religion is just to just follow these moral values, right? Just be a better person. And I thought to myself, I don't need to have to look up to a greater being or believe in stuff like that to do such things, just do it in my own way.
Well, to answer your question, since you initially asked me, so to clarify the question, to rephrase my answer to suit the question. So basically, as Afifa was saying, and just adding on to what she said, Islam in its essence, basically is a way of life. In one sentence, it's a way of life. So basically, it shows the human being or the creation. It shows them that your interaction, that your existence in this world, there should be a reason why you exist. Like, for example, person A 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, none of us existed. So the idea of a person coming into being, and for example, looking at one's forefathers and ancestors, that they were once there, but now they're not there anymore. So this idea of this continuous creation of life, if you want to put it that way, and this continuum, and that we will also then pass on, and then people will come, if you have children, then their children, etc., etc. So this idea suggests that when you are born into this world, I guess, you have why are you born? Why did you exist? What brought you here? It's just like, the idea or the analogy that you might hear is that this is an anecdotal example. Say you're in a train, for example, and you wake up. The first question that comes to your mind is, where am I? And the second question you're going to ask yourself is, okay, when you determine your spatial temporal position, you're going to say to yourself, okay, so now that I've, determined where I am, for example, then where am I heading to? Where is this going? Where am I going? So these are the questions that need to be answered, in which, coming back to the topic, I think you were saying, and just before we started, you said Friedrich Nietzsche, when he said the concept of God is dead. So this actually shows that these questions are things which come to the human mind. It's inevitable. You have to ask these questions, regardless of your background, your race, your creed, your geography, your time, your era. These are questions you need to ask. We ask ourselves naturally. It just comes to your mind. At least it has to have come through our minds at one point in life. So these are questions that we have the desire and the thirst to try and find an answer for, right? And so this is the idea of when you understand that there is a super being or God, then you're going to ask, because you have to, the first question to understand, to try to differentiate this is, I don't want to take too much time, is you want to see the source in which you're trying to base your understanding from. Because there has to be an origin to everything. To understand something, you always have to take it back to its root or origin, right? So the idea of when someone says if there is God or no God, or the one who says there is no God, then they have to ask, the burden of proof on them is to present and say, okay, this is our proof as to why there isn't a God. Because then you have to look at the sources of knowledge. So then where do you derive your knowledge from? Where do I derive my knowledge? Because you have to scrutinize now. Because as you said, you need critical thinking. We're given a mind, we're given eyes, ears, generally speaking, to observe, to look, to ponder, to question, and given a heart. So human being is a biopsychosocial, pun intended, right? It's PDS. I'm not sure what they call it now, but anyway, PDS. Yeah. So it's you can't just take it from one perspective. You have to take a holistic approach. So human beings don't have only a necessity to eat and drink. They also need a mental, you have this mental appetite, to increase your knowledge. And likewise, you also have this emotional/spiritual aspect that you also need to fulfill. You have to feed. If you are sick, for example, and you don't seek medication, what happens to you?
You may or may
Your
not
illness
die.
will, generally speaking, your illness will then become more severe. And then ultimately, if you just leave it as is, you're digging yourself
Your grave.
6 feet under, yeah, literally and metaphorically.
So to sort of to pull all the strands together, correct me if I'm wrong. What you're trying to say is that for you, religion answers the questions.
It's a way of life, yes.
Yeah.
But
who, what, why, when, where. It answers these questions.
But in addition to that, it then tells you that after you understand this, that you have then
what you should do.
Because then you're not in this world by yourself. The world doesn't revolve around us, as individuals.
Yeah.
I have a right to myself, so a right between me and my creator. Then a right between me and myself. You.
Yeah.
Me. Yeah, I get it.
The me time.
Yeah, me time, exactly.
And then you have a responsibility between you and the people.
Yeah,
And then, of course, it's not only humans that inhabit the earth. You have animals.
Yes.
You have your nature. You have the environment. So you have to give everything its right. You can't just simply, do as whatever you want.
So essentially, not only does religion for you answer questions in terms of the original questions, but also tells you how to live life.
It's a way of life, correct?
Yeah, correct.
And it gives everything its right.
Okay, that is a very interesting and very interesting sort of perspective to hear.
That answers your question. That's what you meant.
That answers it very well. Thank you very much. So yes, I really like what I'm hearing. So moving on. So you all explain, like, except for Rachel, obviously, explain how God plays a part in your life and religion plays a part in your life. So now I'm going to ask a question, which is, do you think now in this sort of 21st century, or you want to call it, religion is actually doing good?
No.
Hey, relax, guys. But yeah, that is my question. So now, here and now, is religion doing good? My question.
It depends to ourselves or to just in general society.
It's up to you. How do you want to answer it?
Oh, don't do this to
Who
me.
wants to start? This is a really good question.
If you want
I could start.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So I feel that religion isn't doing good now, which is why I believe that religion doesn't give me sort of my purpose. What I believe in is that our existence precedes our essence. We come into this existentialism.
Classic Hari.
So like for me, I came into this earth. Being. And religion is sort of there to just guide me. And the way I see it is that society, many people take it sometimes too literally, and by doing so, we see religion breaking people apart. People get too radical and egoistic, if you will, and they think, oh, my way is better than your way. And I feel that religion started many years ago, many thousands of years ago, just to unite people. And now we see people united, and that's why it doesn't necessarily have to be there anymore. And I see, religion has caused so much, I feel, harm in our society. People, the way they perceive religion is so extreme to the point that they can hate people.
Not everyone, but
Not
there are
everyone,
groups of people.
of course, not everyone, but
I think everyone gets the.
yeah.
I get what
Yeah.
you're trying to say, Hari. So
I'm gonna jump in from him. The thing about I'm gonna relate it to you and to you as well, Muhammad. Religion, to me, how it came about, like those many years ago, the Mayans, animism, politism, was just like what you said, to find answers. But at the start, it was for simple things they couldn't explain, like, oh God, why is there lightning? Why did my ship sink? why did this animal kill this person? So they needed answers to that. They needed to know who could explain rain, who could explain a tornado. So they created these beings. For them, it was deities. Things to worship that gave them, I guess you could say, some closure. Why these things were happening. So instead of saying, oh God, why is it raining? They could just say, we didn't pray the sun god good enough. In the past. But throughout the years, we see religion evolve. We've got Hinduism, we've got Islam, we've got Christianity. But you notice everything is somewhat the same concept. It's to answer questions, correct? It's a way of life.
Partially.
But not about the lightning anymore. It's more to why are you here? What is your purpose?
Okay, so you want to ask him first?
I mean, I will go to you because you started off.
Okay, so the idea or the concept in Islam is not only answering questions per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's that when you understand or you come to recognize and acknowledge that there is a creator, there is a being that created everything and brought all of us into existence. And if I could, by all means, please add anything if I miss anything. It's actually when you come to this recognition, then you need to. The question that you would ask is, what does the one who put me here? Why did he put me here? Mm-hmm. It's not about only a matter of just simply asking the question, because in Islam, from what we believe, I believe, or Afif and myself believe, is that when you're put into this world and then you come to recognize and acknowledge that there is God, right? Then you're going to ask, what does He want from me? Mm-hmm. Because naturally, the one who put you, if I make something, so everything which has a beginning, right, has a cause.
Yes.
Right? So it has a cause. Every beginning has a cause. And of course, in this case, the question of usually the atheists would ask, and as I said, I'm not, this is just a general, this is something what is brought up, is that the question that is brought from the atheistic side is that if everything that has a cause, has a beginning, has a cause, right, then who created God?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The question where this is a popular question everyone asks. See, the thing is, we don't want to get all philosophical here, and of course, maybe this can be left for another time. But
you can get philosophical.
No, it's just in terms of the time for the time's sake.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic.
So the idea of that question, see, is that in Islam, so I'm not talking, this is not a matter of other religions. In Islam, the definition of God, as we said initially, is of the four things, criteria. So God has no beginning. So the question in itself is a fallacy, because we in Islam believe that God did not have a beginning. So every beginning has a cause, but God doesn't have a beginning. So the question in itself is a fallacy.
True.
There are many questions in this world, even from a physical phenomena, that are incorrect.
Yeah.
You can't say a rooster. A rooster was sitting down in my backyard and he laid an egg. Is the egg a female chick or a male chick? You say the question is wrong. You can't ask such a question because roosters don't lay eggs.
Yeah.
So the question in itself is wrong. So this is the idea of asking who created God. Then you go into this infinite regression, which in Islam we don't have, because we say God has no beginning. Now this is something, then when you say, okay, then I can't understand this is where we come back to the basis, which we established in the beginning, is that God is beyond comprehension.
He's just...
You can't understand the nature of God. You only can understand to what the capacity you have. And the reason for this, from an Islamic perspective, is it humbles you. It shows you that you as a human being are limited.
Yeah.
You're limited. So in other words, you should never be arrogant.
Yeah.
And that's why what you don't know will always be more than what you know. Yeah. And that's why we continuously always discover things. We're always continuously discovering things from now, and we'll die, and humans will continue to discover and advance. So this essence was created, the principle in Islam is that human beings have this limitation in order to humble them, and that they are directed towards the Creator. Does that make sense? So it's not only as I said, this is something that is in depth. So it's not a matter of just simply answering those simple questions. It's trying to understand your being. So does that clarify?
Yeah. I kind of get it.
So it's not a matter of coming back to your question you said initially, which was about
religion was created.
Yes, it was created. Yes. So contrary to popular belief. Great minds think alike. I'm not great. I'm trying. I always strive for that. So, the contrary to popular belief, Islam is not something founded by Prophet Muhammad. We don't believe that.
Yeah,
we believe that it was since the beginning of time. So it's not a new religion per se.
Yeah, that would make sense with the entire Adam and Eve story. So yeah, that's like sort of self-explanatory, to be honest, and I understand that.
Yeah, but let's say we get back to the question at hand, right? Was like whether it is good or bad. Well, to me, it all depends on context. I think religion nowadays, it exists to help people who struggle. Like for me, I found my way, right? I found my way of life. I decided that I will decide things on my own, and I will follow the moral values that I believe in.
Yeah.
So I think religion helps people who maybe find it hard to do that, or find it comforting, or get closure from having, a way that they can connect with others.
What about if you don't find it hard but you choose to do that?
That's also a group of people as well.
Yeah.
But the problem is we come to like what Hari said, they are the people, the extremists, right?
Yeah.
And I think that aspect of it, where people take things too literally, they take things too seriously, you have the comparisons, that's not a good thing that we have, and it's something that we should be working on. But I mean,
Do you think that applies to atheists then? Those what society terms as militant atheists. and
yeah,
whatnot?
there's that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So I think in the end of the day, with religion, no religion,
The
there's
answer-
always going to
I
be.
think the way I would see it, I'm sure. Please,
I actually want to add on to your point.
Oh.
I think it's a very good point that you've raised up, because I was going to talk about it rather than talking about the world and is religion good or bad to the world. I actually want to talk about, is religion good or bad to the person itself?
Please.
So I'm going to take a different stance on it. Adding on to what Ray said, in itself, religion is there to kind of to guide you in your early stages of life. And then I felt that while growing up, you kind of lose track of religion sometimes. It's happened to me, it's happened to people around me as well, but it's up to you if you get back on the track. And that's something you can't embed into a person. That's your own personal belief. All right, you can't teach someone that I need you to believe in this religion this much, okay, for you to believe in God, like as to how I'm believing in God. Everyone has a different belief themselves. That's one point I want to make. The other point I want to make is in the sense that I've seen from an Islamic perspective, I've got friends that are Muslim, and I don't know if living in a Western country adds on top of that pressure or not, but let's say a Western country is a setting, unlike Malaysia, where it's, a Muslim state, country, sorry.
It's understood.
Understood,
It's the same thing.
So I've noticed that when religion is completely battered and beaten into a person, you kind of go the opposite way. I've seen people that have come out worse with, enforcing religion onto them. I've seen people that are for example, in Islam, you can't drink. Right. So rather than, saying it also depends on your upbringing. Just so I can
Yeah.
finish the
So
controversy.
the question is then, would it be religion, or would it be the way people are going to convey that religion, and then the way that people are going to perceive it in turn? So the question comes back to the original question which Ray was asking. Would it be the religion itself as the problem?
See, I'm gonna address that
Sorry,
in a second. And I felt like that it's honestly it's up to you, and I guess how you're raised up as well. I've seen people that completely turn a good 180 because they feel like, if this is restricting me, all right, and I really want to do it, what you said, Ray, then I'm gonna do it, but they feel bad about it. So they've come out from following a religion totally retaliating completely.
Rebellious.
All right, and it's bad. It's bad to themselves. It's bad, full stop.
Yeah.
But then there are other people as well that follow the religion and really believe in it and everything like that, and they come out to be a better person, or they are better people. So I feel like your question in itself is very
It depends on the person.
It depends on the person. It really depends on the person. Is religion doing good or bad? It's honestly up to the person whether it is really doing good or bad to them, and it depends on them as to how much they believe in it and what they really think about it. Because you can't just simply say, religion is good, or religion is bad because it's doing la-di-la-di-la. You can't say that. It's completely up to the person, up to personal experiences. For me, it's doing good. But then I see other people around me where I'm it would have been better off if you didn't have so many restrictions on you, because right now you're totally retaliating against all of them. Where I feel like if you hadn't had that kind of pressure or force on you, then you would have been at least a bit Like it's like that little desire, like as a
Yeah.
kid, you know, when your
Yeah.
mum says don't touch the candy jar, what are you gonna do?
You
Touch
have
the
the
candy
desire
jar.
in
Touch
you
the
to do
candy
it.
jar.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take on it.
So,
Yeah. I have to add on to like what speaking on Afifa's point of view, like towards myself. I think growing up obviously as a child, like Ray said as well, like you're instilled with the teachings by your parents, your grandparents. You grow up in that environment. And then as I grew older, my parents gave me that space to discover and define religion in my own terms, which is how I ended up being, so far, an agnostic Hindu. Because of how I perceived my religion, how I look at it, and how I see its relevance towards my life. You see? So, but when you're speaking on society's point of view instead, I feel like religion is a constant. It's just that the practices have evolved a long time.
Yeah.
You see?
Mhm.
And a long time, people have also started to question these practices as well, which is why people like, say, Hari and myself, agnostic Hindus, we come up instead. Because we look at religion and God at its core instead of just blindly following these practices. You start questioning a lot of things. Because there are some practices, say, whether it's in Hinduism or Christianity, whatever it may be, practices that may have been relevant at the beginning of time, but now as society has changed, we have evolutionized. Those practices may not be relevant, but the belief may still be. And there's also, I think now, there are people who think like us. We are a little bit more open-minded. We are more accepting about a lot of things. And then there's also the branch of people who are still pretty radical as well. But I think at the core, I think the beliefs still stay, but it's just that the practices have changed when it comes to
It
religion.
depends on the person.
It depends on the person
Yeah.
because we all have our minds of our own. We all start our experiences, what life has shown us, has brought upon towards us, changes our way of seeing things. So in that way, when you see it, like myself, I change my practices. But at the end of the day, I still do believe in my religion. I still do believe in God. It's just my practices have changed. And that is pretty much, I think, the same for everyone else as well. We still believe in our religion, or whether not, but our practices have changed a long time. That is all. That's how I see it as. Because as time goes by, things change. The world has changed compared to 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. And so the relevance of it changes in time. That's how I see it.
yes,
So would you, just a question to everyone, would you say that religion is as relevant now?
Do you think it's outdated? Maybe
Yeah.
like the practices. I mean, maybe the beliefs are still
Yeah,
reasonable,
yeah,
but
of
the
course.
practices behind it, do you think it's a bit too?
Okay, so to answer your question, basically, to myself, when one, not even only to myself, generally, for me, when I don't want to get into this, personal upbringing stories and
Yeah.
like that. But it's good to be critical in your thinking. I don't like this idea of I'm Muslim, for example, in my state. I'm talking personally, right? So since I was young, I've had this desire to question a lot. I used to ask. I want to understand. When I see something I don't quite understand, I question, because that's how you grow. This is the mental aspect. You mature and you mentally grow. So I used to ask a lot. So if someone, for example, personally me, if I was to be asked, why am I a Muslim? I'm not a Muslim because my parents brought me up. And this is the thing that kind of personally affected me a lot. See, what I realized growing up is that society basically tells you what to think.
Yep.
For me, my belief in Islam tells me how to think. It says, here's the tools. Okay, so
Up to you.
now try to find, it gives you this push. You just reach the edge and then you just need someone to
It gives you the tools.
the push to move you forward.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea of the fact of, as FIFA and all of you are saying, I do agree to an extent, but I also humbly, this is where the point of distinction is, where I humbly kind of divert away from that, is that I don't it's when society has influence naturally, because this idea of nature versus nurture, also another existential aspect. Because I studied existentialism as well, because I've read a lot of religions and whatnot, be it the Vedas, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, etc., even the Bushido. So anyway, but the point is, what I'm trying to say is, there are many things, as you all said, but the thing is, I need something that stimulates me. I don't want something that just says, this is as is, because people, even generally speaking nowadays, perceive religion as the root of evil. I don't know why. Generally speaking, I'm saying. So the idea of God, put everything aside, just the concept of there being a creator. The idea is that people associate the actions of the creation, human beings, us, and then they try to pin that on the creator, which to me I find to be completely and utterly unjust.
I agree with that.
And unfair.
I agree.
Because what you yourself, as you said, whether you wanted to take the candy from the candy jar, or you wanted to, that's up to your own accord.
Your decision.
Your decision. Because as I said, we don't want to go into too much detail, the concept of free will and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of free will and whatnot, clearly, obviously, the answer is you're not this idea of there's no complete free will where you utterly are just free in everything you do, because even in our society, which claims to be secular, generally, I'm saying in overview, the world in general, which is now the trend is secularism, post the Renaissance period or the Age of Enlightenment. The idea of, this idea of we only want to just be free per se, even that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as total freedom no one can name me anything. No one can name me anywhere or anything on the face of this earth which gives you, a VIP card to give you absolute freedom. That does not exist.
Exactly.
So this idea of free will. The other hand is the concept of you being like a puppet and, everything is, you are forced. So if I kill or I didn't kill, God willed that I killed. No. The only reason why you asked the question and I'm answering is because you chose to ask the question and I'm choosing or you answered me. So I chose to answer. You directed the question to me and I chose to answer. So there is this form of choice as well.
Yeah.
So this idea of, to answer the question, going back to what Arvin and yourself were saying, is, and Hari was saying, the idea of religion doing harm and whatnot, I don't think that's actually the right question, per se. Because then we could look at any other form of creed or belief and say, look, that there's also these people are doing this and these people are doing this. So people are constant, people are variables, they change.
So it's not the religion that's bad, it's the interpretation that people have of it.
Yes.
The decisions that people make in the name of God.
Yeah, no, but so to understand this, you always have to go back to
Upbringing.
the source.
Oh.
Because even the upbringing changes, right?
Yeah, fair, yeah. Okay.
But so the idea of, for example, see, where Islam has this idea of, there are things that are innate. And this is one of the signs that there is a creator. And that is, there is a creator who put you. And that is a natural disposition. So in Arabic it's called the fitrah, or natural disposition. So for example, we all here, I've never met and sat down to actually, I have the privilege, I currently have the privilege to actually sit down and get to know all of you and speak to you, but I've never had that before.
Yes.
But see, now, all of us have come together now, don't know each other, never seen each other before, face to face, person to person, and have never sat down and spoke to each other.
Okay.
Our parents are not the same. Upbringing is not the same, right? So this time is not the same, geography is not the same, etc., etc. But despite all of that, we all agree that rape is evil. Rape is evil. Theft and stealing is evil. Murder, even murder and like killing someone wrongfully is completely evil. So these are things which we all agree. But the question then poses itself: why, if you were to, even now, to test this further, if you were to go back to your grandfather, if he's living. If they're alive, which is then fortunate. If then not, then I'm sorry, my condolences. Ask them, is rape good or bad? What do you think they're going to tell you? Bad. Of course, naturally. No one. If you say to someone, "Would you like someone to rape your mother or sister?"
No.
I'm sure no one's going to say yes. Right.
So everyone's agreement.
But so the question is, this, open quote, close quote, hardwiring, if you want to put it that way, or this natural disposition, which is the term we use, is where did it come from? Because if you were to ask a person from, whether it be in the Americas, all the way to Europe, to Australia, to the Middle East, to the subcontinent, to Africa, ask anyone. They will give you the affirmative. Even if you were to ask the thief,
he knows it's wrong.
Say to him. Some people might say to you, but the thief was brought up on these principles. But then you see that completely completely neglects the concept of the mind.
Have a mind of your own.
Right. Because see, for example, we're all brought up in a certain culture. I don't agree culture. Yeah, this is strictly speaking to culture.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of culture, there are certain things in my culture, not my belief, what I don't agree with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sort of moving on from what Muhammad said, what do you guys think about?
To add on to Harry's question, right? And his question was, is it necessary these days? Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it quick and brief. I feel like, I'm going to take like another stance on it. Like in general, like I'm saying, how do I say this without saying I feel like? So you start off with religion, but I feel like
It's fine. It's fine.
society really has an impact on it, and Muhammad's added onto it. Subha has added onto it as well, and now the fact that like people are very like consumed into social media and materialistic values these days, where they totally strip away the religious aspects and why religion was there. Like now you've got girls going up on Instagram and being like, oh my god, I want to be Kylie Jenner, like that's what I want to do, like it takes away what if religion really is needed, because you've got so many other superficial values added into your life that I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do that you're like, well, I really don't have time for religion at the end of the day. I really don't have time to pray, like you sometimes exactly. Like
find that fulfillment in something else.
They find fulfillment in superficial and societal things that have influenced them to such an extent that it totally takes away the purpose of religion being there in the first place, as how Ray Muhammad said, like, it's there to, it was there to first guide you and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're seeing a lot of this trend where like people don't remember
They don't care.
They don't care. That's it. They don't care. It's not on their mind all the time, like it's like, oh, if I'm feeling sad, and stuff like that. Usually I think back in the past people would go pray and, ask for like, what do you call it?
Back then it was almost like a priority.
Yeah, you'd ask God for like, God help me, like, I'm going through this difficulty. Whereas now, you'd see kids like therapist or, and not wrong saying that you go to the therapist, not at all.
No, you should. By the way, this for everyone.
Exactly.
If you have any difficulty,
There's
no, I don't think, I'm not sure about other religions, but I'm sure there's no, generally speaking, that says there's no religion that should say, I guess, that you shouldn't go seek help. It's like saying, if you're sick, you just not take medicine and pray to God. No,
So,
you have to take the meat.
I'm not
go to a therapist.
I'm not saying it in that way. I'm saying it as in like, if you are down and stuff like that. For example, most people would seek out to God and stuff for help. Whereas nowadays, like, people would just go on their, sad song playlist on Spotify and put it on repeat.
Done that.
Exactly. So, like, even I've done that as well.
Yeah.
Or you could turn to God and then go to therapy.
So
why not?
Anything works.
Things like
Whatever
that.
works.
And the more materialistic and the more superficial values you add into this world and the societal influence you have, to answer your question, Harry, it takes away religion even more and more and more. And yes, I get what Muhammad is saying, like, even if you have your belief to its strongest roots and cause, I feel like Muhammad is quite like active in like portraying all of that and stuff with the way he's talking, because I don't have such
it's just a matter
strong
of...
like I don't have such a vast understanding like he does.
No, this is exaggeration.
But like for other people, some people like that follow the religion, they are quite lazy as well. They're not going to be like,
no, but everyone
why,
has their
how,
ups and downs. Everyone has their ups and
that's
downs.
also true. But like, not stereotyping that the lazy people are the ones that go off track. It's just saying that it's come to the point where you're not doing all of those, like.
So if you ever fall down, don't stay down.
Pick yourself up.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Words are not coming into my mouth right now.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay, interesting. So I believe everyone has talked.
I think Ray.
Ray?
I've talked,
Have you? Okay, good. So in terms of wow,
There's a lot to.
yeah, it is a lot of stuff. So we basically covered whether you guys think religion is still relevant today. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And I believe Muhammad said yes, Afifa said yes, Hari said no, Subha said yes.
Yeah.
Rachel obviously said no.
What do you say?
I mean, if you look at it in my perspective, to me, no, obviously, but it's up to the person. Honestly, I like, just because I'm an atheist, I'm not gonna try and make all of you one. Honestly, it's cool to see all of you guys have your own beliefs, and it's interesting to learn. So, dude, I think that as time goes on, and a lot of the young adults and adolescents, they have more
Minds of their own.
open-minded
Yeah.
and all that type of thing. So religion isn't as strong as it used to be. I feel those, not everyone, but those who were religious before have become overtly religious and are trying to force spread it,
Yeah.
with extremism,
That's
with,
that's what
Yeah.
what is that word where they preaching, everywhere. Not everyone, obviously, but it has become more rampant, and I believe it's because they see that a lot of the youth are not following it, and then they reminisce their old days where like all of them were like religious, and they're like, no, this is not right.
You can't lose this touch.
This is not the way of God in their mind. So they're becoming more extreme. So I think that religion is not doing well in that aspect where there's this big divide. But if we can stop this from happening, I think there is no problem in having religion around, because if it helps you, then by all means go for it.
Yes.
Because you're finding your own, your own closure in a sense, right? Go for it. I found closure by not believing, and I'm happy with it. I'm very sure Mama is happy with his, and he has his own way of life, and we can both communicate open-mindedly at this table, not at each other's throats.
Yeah.
See, I think okay. So to add on to that, which you make a good point. The thing is, I realized that, and I'm sure, please, anyone, feel free to add. I think the problem is because the current time and the society we live in this particular specific era of time, the problem is since our early years, the problem is you're not taught how to sit down with a person over a cup of coffee or on a table to sit down and actually discuss. Or tea, sorry. By the way, I don't do coffee.
Man of tea.
Oh, tea. Okay, fair enough. That's a good point. I'm a tea person. White tea. The thing is, the problem is, per se, I'd say, is not the idea of coming back to this point. It's not the actual discussion of trying to, reach an understanding or a common ground or truth or whatever it may be, or even just trying to share ideas, right?
Yeah.
And understand each other. The problem I realize is that because we live in this time and age, you should not speak about your belief to someone in the workplace, because apparently it causes flamethrowers. No one is saying speak in a manner which is quote unquote.
Essentially,
it doesn't have to be uncivilized.
Essentially, you don't preach, you share.
You should.
Yeah.
But everyone you call it preach, sharing. I don't care what you call it. Someone could come up to you and say to you, "Oh, but this is a form of preaching." I really don't care what term you use, as long as we understand the definitions, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, we should try to have more engagement. Respect is given. I mean, I don't think there's a
pretty important.
But that's a given.
You should
But
be able to have open
you
conversations.
you have to have a conversation. The idea of I don't want to speak because I don't want to because
I don't want to offend anyone.
No, exactly. You don't have to speak to offend. No, speak in an appropriate, respectable manner.
Yeah.
Try to understand, and don't question from an aspect or from a sense of arrogance. Question from a sense of trying to understand, and then share.
Yes.
And then, of course, this is the problem. One of the problems of these, generally speaking, and I know we're in the debate society, yeah. So not a direct attack on your phone, or indirect for that matter. It's not a matter of I debate because I want to win over you, or it's for or against. I want to speak with you to try and understand what your reasoning is. You can understand my reasoning. I see something which is good, I take.
And we learn.
Yeah,
We learn from each other.
So this is the thing. Is in society you're not allowed to. No, don't speak about religion. Don't speak about religion. Don't speak about this. No, it's not a matter of taking to extremes. We need to learn.
Yeah.
We need to tell the people not to speak about religion. No, if you have an idea, discuss it.
Yeah.
That is very
Discuss
true.
it, yes.
And like in defense of the debate society, yes, we debate. But what people don't see is what happens after the debate.
Yes.
When the debaters get together, shake hands, and talk over a cup of tea or coffee.
Or you could do that from the beginning and in the end.
Yeah, but like the point of the debate is more to showcase to everyone this is what we think.
Showcase two different perspectives
Yeah.
on.
But in terms of the people themselves, they discuss it backstage and they reach an agreement, which is where you actually get that sort of discussion and engagement. Because when the crowd listens, then the crowd is like, actually, yeah, and they start discussing, and that's sort of the point of debate and really the point of discussion.
So in the end of it, I think that currently religion is not doing that well in society.
Yeah.
But with what Mohammed said, right, if we can reach to that understanding, I think it will be a much better place, even with religion in it. Well, I'm still an atheist, but I learned a lot. Not just about like what my friends think, but I understand like new concepts. I've never really thought about what Mohammed said about like how we don't just try and convince someone. We just try to understand and share information. That's actually a good way to look at it. I do like Afifa's way of thinking that it's the person. She agrees with me on that, and then she also adds on to like the upbringing and the environment. Obviously, Hari and I have talked a lot. We know it.
Yes.
we know the ups and downs and all that. So and Shubha as well. So I think that from this current podcast, I think I just learned that it's good to talk. This was such a fun session.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want to do this
agree.
again, man.
Yeah.
Religion
Yeah.
part 2 next week. I hope. But yeah, we learned a lot. I think this is the way we should be dealing with things.
Yeah.
It's great.
Adding on to what Ray said, I mean, from this particular podcast, I think one thing I definitely learned is that it's not that difficult for people of different beliefs or, religions, whatever it may be, mindsets, to come and just sit and have an open conversation without offending each other. We did that, the 6 of us here at this table. It's not very difficult if you actually made the effort. We just tried to listen, to understand. You learn something. You're not changing your beliefs, but you're trying to understand someone else's perspective as well.
Yeah. And essentially, I mean, you can follow whatever you want as long as you understand your friends and you respect each other and you don't lose those core values. Being human. Yeah, that's enough. After all, we all are the same
Species.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with everyone what they've said. I think what Hari and Shubha pointed out with Hinduism having some sort of energy towards it, I found that concept very interesting, and that's something I'm going to take home tonight. So it's been quite enlightening, I'd say.
Thank you, Afifa. And Mohammed, if you'd like to close us off for today.
No, first of all, I'd just like to thank you, Arvin, for moderating.
Yes.
The person behind the scenes usually don't get the credit they deserve. So thank you.
No, trust me, everyone knows.
Okay, then. I didn't know. So I'm doing my bit, yeah. And it's been I'm privileged to come and speak and being asked to come and speak among all of us, and I got to know all of you. So just in summary, I guess the idea of is religion dead, as Friedrich said, and all these existentialists and philosophers and post modern and Renaissance related, all these recent concepts that have risen within the past few centuries. I think this is just to understand everything that you see in your context currently. Always take things back to its origin and root. That's the way to actually get a clearer picture, I guess, from what I see, from the lenses that I see. To understand anything, always take it back to its root, and then go back to the source in itself, and then critically analyze it, assess it. And then this way it actually opens up, it unlocks many locks. But of course, at the end of the day, as Ray was saying, we have to learn how to sit and speak to each other sorry, forgive me. I just find it very odd and strange to say in a respectful manner. Because it's a given. You don't need to say to someone.
Definitely.
Sorry, it's just something I don't really get. But I understand because not everyone unfortunately does that.
Yeah.
But the few don't do that. But we have to learn how to not speak. We should speak and converse, but not take the extremes. Take the middle ground. Sit down, speak, try to understand what is good. You take. What is beneficial to you take, etc. So that's, I think, is, the way to go forward, I think.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Muhammad. Thank you very much, everyone.
very much,
Ray,
everyone.
Subha,
Yes.
Afifa, Hari.
I'm going to add one existential crisis for everyone who's listening, okay?
Please proceed.
Alright, so this is thing I've read online. Of course, you have to believe in God for this to have to work. Okay,
Part two.
you all of you are going to think about this, right? So, if God is considered omnipotent, okay, which means He can do anything beyond comprehension.
Yeah.
Is He able?
Which is befitting to His Majesty.
True. Would He be able to create an object that He cannot lift?
That question is very easy to answer.
Really?
Yes.
So don't give an
And-
answer. Let everyone think about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. This is the second opinion for you. Me, Arvin, signing off. Bye.
I